On December 4th, 2012, the player I Will Dominate received a 1-year suspension from professional League of Legends due to his toxic in-game behavior. This was the beginning of Riot creating strict rules and guidelines that pro players had to follow. Since then, only more rules have been made. One day you're allowed to wear your favorite Shrek Crocs, and then the next day you're being fined hundreds of dollars for doing exactly that.
I don't know, it was just messed up, and they're like, you can't wear the Crocs anymore, so I don't know.
These are just some of the rules that have been made or changed in the past couple of years, which we'll learn about today, including how certain countries' laws and politics are going to affect upcoming tournaments. Next, instead of saying kills will be replaced with points. But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by Opera GX. Most internet browsers were built by people who never played a video game, whereas Opera GX is built by gamers for gamers. That's you! The browser provides you with everything you need for general internet browsing while giving you complete control of what your browser does and looks like. From controlling how much RAM, CPU, or internet your browser uses, to customizing everything else on your browser with their mods feature. We've all been there before. You're playing a game, it starts struggling, and you have to say goodbye to your browser. But with the GX control feature, you can actually stop your browser from sucking up all your resources while you're gaming, unlike other browsers. Additionally, you can keep all of your chat apps on the side while browsing and watching your important videos.
What?
And their mods feature allows you to modify every aspect of the browser itself. This is the legendary Rift mod that comes with its own themed background music, keyboard, and tab sounds. But you can customize to whatever you like, downloading new mods from the GX store. So if you're ready to become a real gamer, use the link in the description to start using Opera GX today. The Asian Games are an international sports tournament held every 4 years, similar to the Olympics, only featuring Asian countries. And recently they have decided to include esports events. However, they're doing things a little bit differently. A caster who will be participating at the event revealed some of the strange rules that the on-air talent will have to abide by. 1. You cannot mention blood. 2. You cannot address champions by nicknames. On the same note, for 3, you have to say the player's real name, not their in-game names. And 4, instead of saying kills, you say points. So if a team has 12 kills, they have 12 points, etc. The reason for all this is likely just a blanket solution to some countries' censorship laws and making sure that no boomers turn on the TV and hear the announcers talking about killing and blood. And to make things worse, the League of Legends event, for one reason or another, will be played on patch 13.12, a version of the game that will be almost 4 months old upon the start of the tournament. And we know this because the Japanese team complained that they didn't have access to practicing on said patch, which resulted in more information coming out, and allegedly the Chinese team had already received access to the patch and had already been practicing. Of course, that brought out the conspiracy theorists suggesting that China was receiving some sort of preferential treatment. Also, doesn't help that the tournament is being hosted in China.
What a coincidence!
But let's move along. Ever wondered what requirements you must meet to be a professional gamer? In the early days, just be good at the game.
No, get the camera!
But today, there's a lot more hurdles, and one of them is your age. Recently, the LEC announced that players participating in the league must be over the age of 18 in order to, quote, help unlock new sponsorship opportunities for teams. This increases the age requirement from 17 to 18. Of course, it's stipulated that this change is likely in preparation of gambling sponsors being included into the league starting next year. This change may be insignificant, but if you were a 16-year-old European player ready to go pro by next year, you'll be waiting yet another year. And fun fact, most players you know were already playing professionally before being 18. Bjergsen joined TSM at 17, Uzi was barely 16 when he joined the LPL, and, you may know him, Faker actually won his first ever world championship at the age of 17. But unfortunately, with more and more reports of esports teams facing financial struggles, the inclusion of gambling sponsors and alcohol sponsors could be viewed as an opportunity at easy money these days.
Solo wants this one. He may well find it. Punch, punch, kill. Shield to be available soon. That is the Bud Light ace for FlyQuest.
But you know what's not easy money? Being fined $8,000 for deciding to vape on stage. In 2021, Fofo, a player in the LPL, was caught pulling out his vape and using it as he walked off stage after a game. Smoking on stage is obviously not allowed, and the rules are now written to include e-cigarettes as well. More interestingly though, we recently learned other products aren't acceptable either. A professional Valorant player was penalized for using chewing tobacco or snooze on stage during a competitive match.
It was an angel with 2 fingers too. 2-finger angel got them penalized.
Adding yet another item to the list of things you can't bring to esports competitions. Rules aren't equal throughout all esports, however. CSGO tournaments in the past have had multiple counts of players using chewing tobacco or snooze without any serious issues.
Snooze is key.
I was gonna say, was Nicolai just dealing snooze mid-game?
Yes, that's the most Northern European thing that you can do.
And depending on the tournament, even vaping is allowed.
This is a situation where it's very easy to be critical of the way... blowing some clouds, that's a classic. Not the usual snooze, but we got it all here.
But here's a rule that hasn't really changed since the beginning. In a 5v5 match, all players must be present or the team missing players will be forced to forfeit. Realistically, this almost never happens, but it has happened. And as of right now, the most recent forfeit in Pro League of Legends belongs to Team Fredit Ryan in Korea. Back in March of 2022, this team had to forfeit a match in its entirety due to every player on the team getting COVID. Now, due to regulations, there would be a way to reschedule the match, but reportedly this happened at a difficult time which made rescheduling impossible, giving the simple solution of awarding the opposing team the victory for the match which would never be played. However, forfeits get a lot more interesting than this. In the Hong Kong and Taiwan Valorant Challengers League, a team was forced to forfeit due to a player failing to download the tournament's client. This was an online tournament, so issues like this can happen. However, the reason for failing to download the client and show up for his team was because the player was too busy playing Honkai Star Rail, a mobile game. As we approach the end here, I must revisit an important subject: the rules surrounding crocs in esports. In our last video about this topic, we saw a game be delayed because a player walked on stage with crocs and was told he had to change his shoes before the game could begin.
So we have a small delay on stage. Don't panic, just a small delay.
I'm freaked.
Inappropriate footwear.
He's wearing his crocs.
He's wearing his Crocs!
This obviously sounds ridiculous, but it does fall into a written rule that this allows players from wearing open-toed shoes on stage. Allegedly, this is for safety reasons. However, I later learned that pro players participating in Valorant have worn Crocs on stage and there's been no issues. But I guess the rules are made up on the fly because just recently the biggest Counter-Strike league has announced new rules which feature a section detailing that players are not allowed to wear open-toed shoes, later specifying that Crocs are considered open shoes and therefore not allowed. And they're serious. The rulebook now states that players who break this rule will be fined a minimum of $250. That kind of money can buy you a lot of cases.
What the f was that?
In the end, once again, there's different rules depending on which game you decide to compete in. In one league, you can get away with vaping and wearing Crocs, while in the other, you'd be fined thousands of dollars for it. The life of a gamer is not always fair.